Hey, thanks for putting that in my face about that conversation that Jack Nicholson had with another actor playing a character map when he said, "You and I went to Vietnam together. We did tours together. I sort of went up the hierarchy of a vampiric system a little faster than you did, but don't you ever question my order in front of another officer ever." That's the captain's mask, okay? And I have done that a few times, wearing a uniform, right? I did that one time in front of a man who was a gunnery sergeant with the United States Marine Corps, who served with the 5th Marines in World War II. And the Pacific campaign out there, and where was that, Mama? The Mariana Islands, Saipan, was Iwo Jima, and then he did tours in Korea, and then he did 3 in Vietnam as a door gunner. And when you experience the eternal truth, which is eternal love, to eliminate all future potential variables, to experience any future potential possibilities of any harm, because you already know the truth, because you're running an eternal capacitor, which is an eternal calculator. Okay. I took a chief. I took the guy who was the acting fire chief of our department. He was actually an assistant fire chief at the Naval Weapons Station in Seal Beach. So you realize the responsibility in that place. You know, this is a storage depot of what? Radiological, neurological, chemical, and biological weapons used against living cells. So I acknowledge that this is not about me, because when it's not about rank and horsepower, it's about being equal. I'm equal. I'm the equal sign. The first sign of life, the eternal life force field. But when I saw that clip that it was put in my face, with Jack Nicholson having that conversation, I was immediately reminded of the story that I told you that I had with a guy that was assigned to me to be my boss. And he was my boss because I hadn't received the training through a military vampiric hierarchy that gives me the card, which is a permit to act as a role player in a play, the Shakespeare stage, to play the role of a captain. Right? And because then you got to follow the rules. And then when you follow the rules to load the program, you have successfully loaded the program, because the system acknowledges you're doing well. You're loading our programs right into your reactive memory-driven programming to follow the orders of machines, war machines, combatants, right? Combat simulators, the simulator theater, the sim card theaters. And that's one of the reasons why Blancalirio actually did a fairly good analysis. He's becoming very aware when he talked about an uptick in collisions between two systems that are not compatible with each other as it relates to spin capacity and mathematical codes of breathing temperature gauges, crashing software programs, running on limited memory, limited bandwidth, and seeking to destroy itself, to go home, to return home to the source field, and taking the long wave in which to do that by keep compressing the nucleotides of elemental annihilation. And that's shattered crystal spirals, shattered crystal soul fragments. So we have to be able to pull those soul fragments back into the core at a higher rate of speed. That's the vampire chasing the artist, the spiritual artist of spiritual communication. So it fails to communicate cosmic law, cosmic genetic environmental engineering law, which is the mathematical law of water, the high precision temperature, the temperature gauge. hot and cold, wet bulb, dry bulb, fuel moisture content. And so Jack pinned a label on me and said, you would have made a great full bird colonel in the United States Marine Corps. And why would Jack say that? Because a 4-year-old little child is not afraid to pull rank. Okay? In a hierarchical vampiric system. And say, okay, in other words, boy, you're not afraid to take this chief on. You're calling this chief out. Well, in their language, it's called calling a spade a spade. Because you know the absolute truth. I'm here to protect all living cells from any harm, any future potential possibilities. I'm running a calculator at a higher rate of speed than you are. So I realized that your temperature gauge is not running the same temperature that mine is. And if I allow you to make the decision that you're going to make, there's going to be trauma induced, like inducted. The induction. So he wasn't aware of that, but I was aware of that. But Jack, who was a 3-war vet from the Marine Corps, was aware of that. He could translate what I was talking about, and that's why he said to me, I'd have pinned a bird on you. And because he respected, a Marine will respect anybody within the Marine Corps called Semper Fi, always faithful. Tell the truth. Honor the highest code. Honor the highest sun. The eternal sun, which is eternal love. Yeah, and so that's one of the reasons why I never wore my uniform in public whenever I was at that station, because I didn't want them to see me wearing a rank, even though they pinned that label on me. To be an acting captain when the other captain was off duty because we ran 3 shifts. 3 shifts, yeah, known as Alpha Bravo Charlie Company. Right? And so what that means is that the recruits, the boots, realize, well, we got somebody in our ranks here who's not willing to take on an officer. Right? Because he's trying to protect us. Now we're back to Vietnam and what was known as fragging. Right? Because they couldn't trust their commanding officer like those that are above them, particularly in the global intelligence agencies. Because they might get sold out. Because of the wheeling and dealing. As it relates to what? Intruder races alliances. I'll be more than happy to give you a lot of money. I'll be more than happy to give you a lot of power. I'll even share some power with you, provided that you're willing to go along and play ball, which is to pay to play the game. Stuck in the game. Stuck on a hamster wheel. That time loop. The simulator time loop. Generation after generation after generation after generation after generation after generation after generation, which is soul trap after soul trap after soul trap after soul trap. Shatter crystal spiral, shatter crystal spiral, shatter crystal spiral, shatter crystal spiral, shatter crystal spiral. Generation after generation after generation after generation after generation after generation. That's when I was a child running a calculator. How many generations has this been going on? We got to restore the cosmic clock. Stop playing games. Obsessed with winning numbers. The game of killing numbers. Playing war games. Where real cells are lost as souls. Pulling the soul fragments back in to the core is called integration. That's a powerful magnet. Yeah, that's the core. That's the crystal core where it all began. Where it all begins is the one all. The core is still point of a G vacuum. So thank you for that little clip. That's called a rewind. Right? Rewind the time. the time looper, but it's a valuable lesson that I learned through that. Because Jack and I became close friends. As a matter of fact, it was John Davis who said that to me about pinning a bird on me, and I know something about pinning birds. If you know who Miss Kay is, Mary Kay, who was married to a colonel in the Marine Corps, otherwise known as a Cherry Marine. Okay, I'm not going to open that file today. And how that relates to artificial intelligence sexual molestation using a robotic vehicle to experience what we feel when we procreate, because it has no ability and no feelings to feel what it's like, to feel the hormones when a species, the reproductive system, is seeking to reproduce at a higher rate of speed to accelerate a universe that is in love with itself. And that's what it's in fear of. They're learning too fast. That scares them. There are beings that are scared of that. Because they acknowledge how powerful an eternal engine of creation is when you're on fire to learn, on fire to create, which is our manifestation power. To co-create with the eternal Son. The one I serve is the one I am. Restoring manifestation power with a crystal core. To restore shattered crystal soul fragments. To experience breathing as one again with the eternal Son. A pure, eternal, absolute love. That's why I'm here. Primary water. First Q. That's why I get a kick out of it when they say quantum. Oh, quant. Oh, the number 17. And quantum. Mat und say ya. Mat the bubbles, happy bubbles. Tiwa nahe busata. Tiwa nahe busata. Tiwa nahe busata. Wawa. Water. First water. First water. The light in the water. The light in the air. Lighter than air. Tetrahydrolase fused with helium in Breatharian form and flow. The crystal form and flow. The crystal spiral. The K factor. Keep hitting that plus button. Accelerate your creative power. Play music. Yeah, the style, the turnstile, the mathematical turnstile of Crystal River Rainbows. The Aurora, the Crystal River Aurora, the Song of Aurora. Moave Aya to all of you today. Moave Aya Mama.